in Jesus' name, Part 3, Chapter 4. Alec and Desi took their place in the two chairs sitting in front of Ricky Keno's desk. The hot seat, as Eric had called it. Ricky smiled at them kindly. "Good morning, guys," Ricky said. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes," Desi answered quickly. "It's the best night's sleep I've had in over 4 months." Ricky nodded. "Good. So, I wanted to meet with you to find out what your goals are, what you want to accomplish in your lives, and make a plan of action. So, tell me, Alec, you first. What are your short-term and long-term goals?" Alec sighed. "Well, Mrs. Keno says my very first goal should be to get some glasses." "You wear glasses?" "Yes, sir. My glasses broke, so I'm having trouble seeing." "Well, my wife is correct. We'll take care of that today. Or actually, she will. If I know her, she's probably already made the appointment." "Let's move on," Ricky said. Goals. Okay, well, after glasses, we need to find a place to live. We need to make sure Desi is okay, with the baby and all, because she hasn't been to a doctor. And I need to find a job. I'd like to eventually get in school. You had a scholarship to Stanford, correct? Yes, sir. What had you intended to study? Law, but I've probably lost the scholarship and have definitely lost my apprenticeship with Jenkins and Savage, who are like the number 10th ranked law firm in California. I messed up. Ricky nodded. Go ahead, Alec, and tell me exactly how you messed up and tell me how it all happened. He gave a short laugh. Well, I met Desi a year ago, last fall. Meeting her, it blew me away. She was a junior. I was a senior at Hillcrest High. I'd seen her around. I'd never spoken to her until one day in the lunchroom. And after that, I couldn't get her out of my mind. I had everything going for me. I knew I was going to be valedictorian. I had procured an apprenticeship. I had a full-ride scholarship. I had my life planned. But once I met her, it was I lost my mind. I couldn't think about anything else. My grades started to slip at first, but I got back on track when my mother threw a huge fit. I lost the bid for valedictorian, but I achieved salutatorian. Things would have been okay, but then there was prom. And we went, and a friend had procured a room at the hotel. And we found ourselves up there. There was alcohol involved and teenage hormones, and we had sex, and she got pregnant. And that's how I messed up. Because my intentions were going to go to law school, because my intentions were going to be go to law school, get a good job, make a lot of money, ask Desi to marry me after she graduated from high school and live happily ever after. But when she got pregnant, her dad threw her out of the house. Ricky shook his head. Desi, did he give you a reason? Well, he said it was because I blatantly disobeyed him, and if I can't follow his rules, then I have to leave. I told him I was sorry. I know saying sorry doesn't fix it. He was so mad. At one point, I thought he was going to hit me. I think I embarrassed him. So here we are, this prominent family in the community and in our church and fairly well-to-do, and his daughter gets pregnant as a junior in high school. I know it was wrong. The whole thing seems like a blur to me. Alec keeps saying he messed up, but it takes two, I'm just as much to blame. "Well, I'm the guy, and I should have been more responsible," Alec said quickly. "Anyway, my mom went freaking crazy. She didn't want me to throw away my future, but she also didn't want to help me with Desi. She said I needed to forget about her and go to school and make something of myself. But, Mr. Keno, please understand, she was homeless. She had nowhere to go. She went to stay with a friend at first, but her parents said she couldn't stay there long, just a few weeks. I couldn't just leave her and go off to school." Ricky nodded. "I understand. I'm glad you felt that way." "You are?" "Well, yes, of course. You were willing to take responsibility for your actions. It would have been nice if the parents had stepped in with some love and compassion rather than condemnation, but they may have thought they were giving you tough love and it backfired." Whatever it was, forgive them. We all make mistakes. Alec blinked as he considered what the man just said. Alec and Desi had been begging their parents for forgiveness, but they needed to also forgive their parents. Ricky smiled. I know I just sent you for a loop, but let's get back to your goals. Alec, do you still want to go to school and study law? Yes, sir, but I think I've blown my chances. Well, sometimes when God closes a door, he opens a window. I'm fairly certain I can speak to my friends on the board at Stanford and get them to reinstate your scholarship. Alec's eyes opened wide in surprise. Desi gasped. Really? Yes, really, but I cannot get you the apprenticeship back at Jenkins and Savage. However, I can get you one at Lee and Adams, providing you keep your grades up at college. Lee and Adams, I mean, that is the number 2 law firm in the state of California. How can you do that? Well, Justin Lee is my father's best friend, and has been since he was a teenager, and Mark Adams is my stepbrother whom I trained in the martial arts, so I'm his master, and he'll freaking do what I say. Alec glanced at Desi, and Ricky laughed. I'm just kidding around about that, though he really is my brother, and, well, he really will do as I ask him to do. Well, this is amazing. So, if I can just find a job and a place to live, then we could make it. I'll work extra hard. Oh, I believe you. The housing situation is being taken care of as we speak. I expect Angel to call me back any minute with news on when you can move in. It may be a few weeks. We'll see what she says. I know that it will be a small home near Stanford in the San Jose suburbs, maybe within walking distance, definitely within biking distance of the school. Who is Angel? Well, she is my stepmother's best friend. She runs a national organization to help women. Abuse hotlines, homes for those escaping domestic violence, women and children's centers, help for teen pregnancy, and pro-life centers that help battle the evil of abortion and give women who've made a mistake make a more godly choice. You've probably heard of Angel's work, the Angel Network for Women. Oh, I have heard of that, Desi said. I thought they helped domestic violence victims. I didn't know I could have turned to them in my situation. You could have. And she'll be glad to learn that you didn't know that so that she can fix that campaign. Angel Lee is a force to be reckoned with, and I'm proud to know her. Angel Lee? Alec asked. So is she related to Justin Lee? She is. She's his sister-in-law. She's married to his brother, Jason Lee, who is the founder and owner of Ameritech Security. Wow. These are some powerful people. Yes, they are. We are a family, and we all work together to do God's will, to fight his battles. We are his warriors, and I have a feeling you are being called to be the same. God knows his own, and his own know his voice. But I digress. The house will be furnished. Bree will take you shopping for whatever you need, be it pots and pans or linens or whatever you'll need for the baby. She might be able to just gather you around the computer and shop online. She will also get you clothes or shoes to make sure you're good to go. Mrs. Keno told us to just accept that you intend to spend some money on us and for me to simply pay it forward, but it feels so strange to have you do this. Ricky shook his head. Listen to me, Alec. The money we spend on you is no big deal. We are blessed. And with our blessings comes a big responsibility, and that responsibility is to do God's work. Whatever he places in front of us is what we work on, and he placed you two in front of us. So my wife is correct. Pay it forward, not just in money, but in kindness. Alec nodded. Then, if you guys are going to take care of all of that, all I need to do is find a job to work around my schooling. Ricky nodded. May I suggest something? Yes, sir, of course. I'm told the baby is probably due in late January. Yes, sir. Well, if you start school after Christmas break, the baby will be coming at that same time, and you might not be able to concentrate when you're a freshman. You have to really put in the time. So I would like to suggest that you wait until next fall. It just puts you 1 year behind from where you would have been, and that will give you time to enjoy your new family member and get everything situated and get focused. So you're saying I could work full-time until next fall and get some money ahead for when I have to cut down on work hours. That makes a lot of sense. Right. And as far as finding a job, I think it would be best for you to work as an assistant or legal aid at the law firm where you will be apprentice. Ricky turned when his phone rang. Hello, Angel. I have you on speaker with Alec and Desi. Oh, wonderful. Well, hey there, Alec and Desi. Hello, hi, the kids replied. Ricky, let me video call you and put me up on the screen. The call went dead, and a second later the phone buzzed, and Ricky put it up on the screen to their right. Alec had to turn his chair, and they looked up at a beautiful blonde with a wide smile. Now I can say it's very nice to meet y'all, Angel said. Ricky smiled. She's a Southerner, in case you didn't catch the accent. Oh, hush, Ricky. Listen, kids, I'm working very hard to get you into a home I have near Stanford. I may have to wait until spring because the only house I have right now is occupied. But the young man is graduating this spring, and they have plans to move back to Montana. Now, I know this might be disappointing that you have to wait for the house, but I can probably find a decent apartment until then. Or if you want, to stick around this area until spring. I have a cute little house in Santa Ana that needs some loving care. What are your thoughts about that? Interesting, Angel, Ricky said. We were just discussing the possibility of them waiting until next fall to start back to school. So if they stick around here, Alec can work at Lee and Adams until next spring, and then we can move them up there. Really? Oh, isn't God just so amazing? When we're doing his will, things just fall into place. Yes, they do, Ricky agreed. So, Alec, Desi, what do y'all think about moving into the little house not very far from L.A.? I think it would be a dream come true, Desi said. Oh, no, the dream come true will be when that baby is born. But also when Bree and I finish helping you get all set up. This is going to be so much fun. Desi giggled. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lee. Oh, honey, call me Angel. Yes, ma'am. Angel, when will the house be ready to move them in? Anytime they want. It's vacant and it's been cleaned, but they need to come look at it because they might want to change some paint colors. Oh, you're just hoping Bree will get it renovated for you so you don't have to. Angel laughed. And I thought Shelley was the only one who could see right through me. Shoot us the address, Ricky said, and Bree will take the kids over and look at it. Will do. Listen, y'all, I have got to go. I have a call waiting. Love you, Ricky. Bye, Desi and Alec. Hope to see you in person soon. Bye, Angel, the kid said softly. The screen went blank, and Ricky smiled. She's definitely had her morning coffee. She's something, Alec said. Ricky nodded. Okay, so it sounds like we've got a rough plan, and Bree will handle the rest of the details. Thank you, sir, Alec said. Just one more thing, Ricky said. If you could have 3 magical wishes right now, each of you, what would they be? Desi, you go first. What do you mean by magical? I mean, don't think about how impossible they may seem. Just name 3 things that you would dearly love to have. Desi nodded and chewed on her lip. I'd like to have my family back. My dad and mom and sister, I wish they could accept Alec and forgive me and be a part of this baby's life with us. Ricky smiled. That is a beautiful wish. What's number 2? Well, I wish Alec could have the same thing with his mom. And the 3rd, I wish I could graduate from high school. 3 very mature wishes, Ricky said. We'll see what we can do. He looked at Alec. And you? Well, you've already given me everything I could ask for. Humor me, Ricky said. Alec drew a deep breath and blew it out. Okay. Well, I wish I had transportation. You know, to get Desi to doctor appointments and to the hospital when the time comes, or just for me to get to work from Santa Ana to Los Angeles. Ricky smiled. Good choice. And it was honest, and it was difficult to say because you were worried I would see it as superficial. But no, I see it as you thinking like a man, working out in your mind how you're going to make things work and get things done. And transportation is a must. Good job. What else? Okay, well, I wish that the baby will be healthy and there will be no problems through labor and delivery and will come home with a healthy, happy child. Another good one, Ricky said. Oh, we'll make sure Desi gets the best prenatal care and the best nutrition from here on out. The rest of that is in God's hands. Okay, one more. Make it the best one. Alec glanced over at Desi. I guess I wish Desi and I could be married. He smiled at her and she smiled back. Ricky suppressed his smile. Well, have you proposed to her? Well, actually, no, I haven't, but I mean, we've discussed it. Why do you want to marry her? Because I love her. Not because she carries your child? Well, that too. I love her and I'll love the baby, but I don't love her because she's pregnant. I loved her before we got pregnant. Ricky smiled. Well said. That's what I was looking for. You see, marriage is the biggest decision you make in your life. Not your career path, not whether to buy a house, but marriage. It's what life is all about. But, Alec, you two are very young. And sometimes when you marry young, you don't realize that you as a person are going to change, which means your feelings may change. They won't, Desi said. Ricky nodded. I know you believe that. Taylor keeps telling me that her feelings for Gabe won't change. And they are the same age as you guys, and they too have talked about marriage. And you don't want them to get married? Alec asked. Oh, I would love them to get married. It's like they were made for each other, but they're young, and I've asked Gabe to wait on her, to grow up a little. Alec nodded. So, you're saying we should wait? Well, no. You may be the same age, but your circumstances are completely different. You've put the cart before the horse. I just don't want you to get married because you feel you have to, and then 10 years down the road end up hating each other. I want you to marry, and it lasts forever. Did you know that 40 to 50% of all marriages in the United States end in divorce? No, they both answered. That's almost half. That means that out of all those people who stand before their friends and families and pastors and justices and other officiators who vow to love, honor, and cherish, etc., half of them break their vows. Vows are not to be broken. They don't really take them seriously, and they break them. And then they fight over custody of the children, and they fight over property, and it gets very ugly. It has nothing to do with love at that point, and it's very sad. So, if you were to get married, I would want to see it last forever, for your sakes, and for the sake of your child. They say the main reason for marriages breaking up is arguing too much and lack of commitment, but that's not really it. Oh, what is the reason? Alec asked. They don't have their priorities straight. You mean like they don't put their family first? No, though that seems like the right thing, it's still not the best thing. The best thing is to put God first. You see, God is real, and He gave us rules to follow, and He gave us those rules not to make things hard for us, but to make things better for us. Your current predicament being evidence of what I'm saying. If we put Him first, that means we're always striving to do His will, which means we're always striving to do the right thing, which means you can trust each other and rely on each other because you know the other is praying and listening to God's promptings. He smiled at them. Are you following? I think so, but it seems a little fanatical. Ricky chuckled. I know, right? But that's because you haven't really connected to God yet. Do you believe in God? I do, Desi said, but Alec and I have never talked about that kind of thing. Well, I'm not going to push it on you guys right now. Actually, I'm not going to push it on you ever, but especially not right now because when God calls you, I want it to be between you and Him. And I don't want it to be that you listen to me talk about my faith because we're helping you. What we're doing for you is not conditional. You don't have to be a Christian. I will give you just a little advice if and when you get married and take your vows seriously. To take your vows seriously. No matter how tempting it is, don't cheat on each other and trust each other and don't lie to each other and talk to each other. My father always says communication is the key. And Desi, Don't think that it's a bad thing to want to stay home and take care of your baby and your husband while he's trying to make something of himself so that he can give you a good home. What women do, give birth, nurture their families, be so loving, and work so hard when they're so tired, well, they are amazing. He smiled. Those words come easy because I tell my wife that on a regular basis. She's a renowned actress, but she's humble and down to earth and loves to serve her family. She gave a sermon a few weeks ago in Nashville. It's on the church website and on YouTube, and it has been shared hundreds of thousands of times. You should watch it. That's something we didn't think about, Mr. Kino. We have our phones, but we have no cell service. Oh, good catch. We'll add that to Bree's list. Well, I'm done counseling. You guys have a big day. You're going to go look at a house, going to get some glasses, going to go shopping. I'll see you at dinner tonight. He smiled. Normally, I would pray with you before I send you off into the world, but I don't want to shove my faith down your throats, so I guess you guys have a great day. Mr. Kino, Alex said, I would be honored to have you pray with us. I mean, though I have a lot to learn, I'm a pretty smart guy, and I'm smart enough to see that whatever you have going for you in your life, it's good. You guys all have a strength, I guess, or a power like I've never felt before. And I'm thinking that must be your faith in a higher power. And I'm interested, and I don't feel pressured because you're helping us. How could I not sit up and take notice? So, please, don't send us off into the world without your prayer. Ricky felt the Spirit move through him, and his eyes immediately moistened, and he nodded. When you get your degree and pass the bar, I have a feeling you're going to be one heck of an attorney. Let's pray. Bow your heads. Father, Alec, Desi, and I come before you at this time to ask your blessing on these two kids. Thank you, Father, for helping them. Thank you for putting them in our path. And thank you that young Eric was following the Holy Spirit when he stopped to talk to Nick Sutter on the side of that store. We love the way you work, the way things fall into place. Father, I realize that you have something special in store for these kids, and I pray you'll send your Holy Spirit to touch their hearts and minds and help them to know your will for their lives. Father, please be with them and with my wife as they go about today. Protect them, keep them safe from all the dark forces of this world. Help everything to work out for the best today as they try to get their lives cleaned up and in order. And Father, please bless their little baby and help it to be strong and healthy. That's all for now. No. Oh, wait, Father. We ask that you touch the hearts of their parents and help them to remember compassion and forgiveness. We ask these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Alec and Desi blinked and stood and smiled at each other. Ricky came around the desk and put his strong arms around them both. You guys have a great day. Thank you, Alec said. I have a feeling it's going to be the best day ever. New scene. It's still October 23rd. It's Wednesday morning, UCLA, Los Angeles, California. At 10:35, Jordan walked out of her class. Together, she and Agent Trout left the building and headed to his car. He opened the door for her and drove her to her apartment building. She immediately spotted her car in the back parking lot. Jordan smiled. Wow, it's all shiny and new looking. Yeah, it's amazing what a coat of wax can do, Trout said. Jordan giggled. She looked up at the man who'd been in charge of protecting her life for the past month or so. He was handsome. She knew he was 29 years old because she'd asked him for Jackie a long time ago. He wasn't just good looking, but was very kind and very lethal. Well, I guess this is it, Jordan said. You be careful now. Frowning, she sighed. What's wrong? Trout asked. Nothing really. I guess I just feel strange. I got used to having you around, and now I'm going to feel vulnerable because you're not here by my side. He smiled and nodded. That's normal. It's a thing our clients talk about. You have my number. Call me if you need me for anything. If I can't be here, I can find someone real quick who can. But you have young Eric, so you're good. I guess I do. What do you mean you guess? Did you two break up? No, at least I don't think we did, but He wants me to take care of my own business, focus on myself for a while. Agent Trout smiled kindly. Well, when someone goes through what he did, he may be struggling to be himself. He may need you to focus on yourself because he's unable to do it right now. Give him some time. He'll come around. That's the same thing Gabe said. Trout nodded. Well, Gabe would know. Jordan nodded and smiled up at the man. Do you know? He frowned. If you're asking if I've had to kill a man, the answer is you don't ask people that. I'll answer you by telling you that I was in the military for 4 years. She grimaced. Oh, I'm sorry for being nosy. It's okay. I'm just telling you that because I like you. You remind me of my kid sister. Jordan smiled. Hey, that reminds me. I meant to ask you, how did your appointment go the other day? He smiled. It was nice. So where did you meet her? Here, outside your classroom. Oh, do I know her? Yes. You're dating a UCLA student? No. Oh, a teacher? He nodded. Your English professor. Oh, wow, Jordan nodded. She's cute, and she's cool. I'm so glad you approve. Jordan laughed. Well, Agent Bentley Trout, I just want to say thanks for taking care of me. I'm going to miss you. He smiled. Watching over you has been my pleasure. You're a good girl, Jordan. Eric is a lucky guy. She smiled and moved forward and put her arms around his neck and hugged him and then kissed his cheek. He patted her back, then took her by the waist and set her away. Remember, you can call me if you need to. She nodded. I will. Get your keys out of the key holder so I can make sure you can get into your car. She turned and did it immediately. Okay, good job, he said, as he got in his car and waved again and pulled away. His phone buzzed. Accept. Hello, Agent Adams. What's your ETA? 30 minutes. You're running a little late? Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I was having trouble cutting the umbilical cord. I understand. I'll inform the client. Jordan watched him pull off, having an empty feeling for the second time today. Feeling very much alone, she walked toward her apartment. She had some homework to do before her next class. She turned abruptly when she heard someone behind her. A girl smiled at her as she held her phone out in front of her and started talking to... Yeah, hey, I just wanted to say that I'm going to be late, the girl said. She passed Jordan and went around the front of the building. Jordan shook her head. The girl startled her. She was being paranoid. Peter was dead. Focus on my life, she thought, as Eric's words came back to her. Jordan went inside and looked around. She hadn't been here in several days. The place was a mess. She put her books down on the sofa and immediately started cleaning up. Shoes, clothes, dirty dishes were all over the place. Something sour was in a pan on the stove, and she wondered how long it had been there. She gathered all the dishes and cleaned the kitchen. She put in a load of towels to wash and gathered the rest of the clothes into their owners' laundry baskets. She made beds and straightened rooms. Then she scrubbed the toilet, wiped the makeup off the bathroom counter, lined up the brushes and combs and hair dryers and straighteners, and scrubbed the shower. Finally, feeling like she could relax, she gathered her stuff off the couch and went to her room to sit on her bed and study. She was alone for the first time in a long time. It was so quiet. She rubbed her hands over her arms. Her mind went to sweet Josie and how she must have felt when she was in that room inside the mine all alone, and how relieved she must have felt to see 3 open that door. 3. Eric. Eric Kino III. He's struggling, and she hated that. He's so kind. He's like goodness personified. He's like goodness personified. She wanted to help him, to be there for him, but he'd sent her away. She guessed what he was going through was way above her pay grade. She had no knowledge of killing and what that does to someone. He said he felt he needed to prove his manhood or something like that. She shook her head. She didn't understand at all. She cracked open her book and began to read about Europe in the 20th century, which to her was a class that turned out to be as boring as it sounded. New scene. Jordan awoke with a start. She drifted off to sleep. Glancing at her phone, she realized she'd slept almost an hour. She needed to get going or she'd be late. She gathered up her books and notebooks, grabbed her purse, and started out, but remembered the towels in the wash. So quickly, she dropped her stuff, put the towels in the dryer on the longest cycle, grabbed up her things, and ran out of the apartment. She got in her car and dumped everything over on the passenger seat. The car started right up, and she sniffed. It smelled really good, which made her smile. She flew across campus to Bunt Hall, found a parking space, and leaned over to gather everything that she'd tossed onto the passenger seat. She was pulling her head out of the car when she dropped the book with all of her notes in it and papers scattered. Shoving her keys into her purse, she set it on the pavement at her feet and began gathering all the papers and notes and stuffing them into her book. She finally had everything in her arms, grabbed up her purse, locked the car, and took off up the sidewalk toward the history building, thinking this day was just going to be one of those days. She sighed and looked up to see a guy running toward her full speed. Her heart began to race. She tried to step off the sidewalk, but he was on her too fast, and his shoulder bumped her as he ran by, causing her to drop all of her stuff again. He turned. "Oh, wow, I'm sorry, but I'm late. I gotta go." Jordan watched him disappear down the hill to the parking lot. Muttering, she began gathering her stuff again. "Oh, you're late. Well, so am I, you idiot," she mumbled. She quickly ran to stomp on a paper that was trying to blow away. She picked it up and turned to finish gathering her stuff. "Here you go." Jordan looked up. A guy was smiling at her, holding out her history book to her. "Oh, thank you," she said quickly as she took the book from his hand and gathered some more papers to stuff back in the book. He helped her. Finally, he picked up her purse and held it out to her. She accepted it and pulled the strap over her shoulder. "That should do it," he said, looking around to make sure they didn't miss anything. "Thank you very much," she said quickly. "I have to go. I'm late." She turned to leave, and he smiled and nodded. "My name is Mason Cole," he called after her as she ran away. She threw up her hand and waved. New scene. It's still October 23rd. It's still Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. Kino Martial Arts, Newport Beach, California. Young Eric and his grandfather emerged from their counseling session. Young Eric had received some clarity after first counseling with his father earlier and then having his grandfather echo some of the things his father had said. He then added his vast experience and knowledge to the mix, reminding him that Navy SEALs and other special forces have post-trauma stress and cry over what they've seen and what they've done. Does young Eric think of them as less masculine? He also asked Eric to give him a very specific and detailed accounting of the man whose throat he'd slit. Young Eric worked his way through the telling with tears and tremors, but felt better for it. He now felt much calmer and stronger. After telling his grandfather his real thoughts as he was doing what he did, he realized he thought the man would truly kill him if young Eric didn't take him out, and the man was too big for young Eric to subdue in his weakened state. Eric truly did what he had to do to survive. Ricky looked up from teaching Gabe when his father and son approached. "Hello, guys. Everything okay?" Young Eric nodded. "Yes, sir. Better, anyway." "Good. I'm going to head out," Eric Sr. said. "Mrs. Perez has given me permission to pick up her children from school. I'm going to feed them and counsel them, and they have a master class. They have a class with Master Cook this evening, so I'm going to stay and visit the class." Young Eric smiled. "Are you going to let Master Cook know that you're coming?" Eric Sr. smiled. "No, I am not." Ricky smiled. "Don't worry, son. He'll be okay." Young Eric nodded. "I wasn't worried. I was just curious. After all, one day I'll be the one dropping in on different schools, right?" Ricky's eyebrows rose. "Yes, of course, if that's where your interest lies. I didn't realize you were thinking along those lines." "Well, I didn't realize that either until just now. I mean, there is a legacy to keep. What Granddad has created, this remarkable entity known as Kino Martial Arts, it's a legacy that I honor and respect and want to make sure it continues. And I was named Eric Kino after you, Granddad, right?" Eric Sr. smiled. "You were. And both your father and I would be ecstatic to know that you intend to keep the legacy alive, and we'll be happy to show you the ropes. Still, don't discard other things you have going for you right now." "Other things?" "Yes, like you're about to hit superstardom once you win the challenge and your movie goes blockbuster." Young Eric nodded. If. Let's just see what happens. Ricky and his father's eyes met. Young Eric had turned a corner, and 5 days ago had sparred extremely well against other masters and even against his Uncle Joey. They hoped he hadn't fallen too far back because they only had about 9 days to train before the big event. They all turned to see Master Foreman coming toward them with a huge smile on his face. He shook Ricky's hand. Good to see you, Grandmaster Keno, he said respectfully. Sorry I didn't get to greet you when you and young Eric first got here. That women's self-defense class is getting huge, and I had to add another session. No problem, Ricky said. I watched a little of the class through the window, and you're doing a great job with those ladies. Master Foreman nodded. I'm learning patience. He turned and smiled at young Eric and then wrapped him in a giant hug. And here's the man of the hour. I cannot express how happy I am to see you standing here. He let go of the young man and backed away, then bowed. Master Keno, well done. We all prayed for you and worried about you, and we're so very happy to hear that you survived and also that you were able to save Jordan's little sister. Young Eric smiled and returned the bow. Thank you, sir. Well, Master Foreman, Eric Sr. began, Ricky is staying and I'm leaving to go take care of some business. Master Foreman bowed to him. Always an honor to see you, Grandmaster Keno. You as well, Eric Sr. responded as he bowed. He looked at young Eric. You go home and rest your tired brain. Young Eric sighed. Yes, sir. New scene. Call Grandma, young Eric said. She picked up on the 5th ring. Hey, my sweet boy, Shelley said. How are you feeling, honey? Hey, Grandma, young Eric said. I'm better. I was just thinking about you and the kiddos, and I know Granddad won't be home until after dinner tonight, and I was thinking maybe I could stop by to see you and the kids. I'm supposed to be going home to rest, but no one is home at my house, and it's kind of lonely, and I thought I could just make this one little stop. Well, you know you're welcome here anytime, sweetie, and you can just sleep here if you'd like and go home later for dinner. I'd like that. Thanks, Grandma. Oh, sweetie, you don't have to thank me. You know I love you to be here. Besides, don't tell anyone, but you're my favorite. Young Eric chuckled. Grandma, I know that Jojo is your favorite. How could you say that? Who told you that? Jojo. Oh, well, of course he did, she said with a laugh. You don't pay him any attention. Now come on home, sweetie. See the kids and then go straight to bed. Okay, I'm on my way. He hung up and spoke again. Call Jordan. The phone rang 5 times and went to message. He sighed and hung up. Text Jordan, he said. What would you like to say? Hey, 2-3, just thinking about you and missing you. How was your day? I guess you're in class. Call me when you get a chance. I love you. Are you ready to send it? Yes. 15 minutes later, young Eric drove up to his grandparents' house and headed in the front door. Grandma, he called. In the kitchen, having our afternoon snack, Shelley replied. Eric smiled when he heard, you stay right there, Nate. Angelina, he'll come in here. Young Eric walked back to the kitchen. Well, hey there, little guys and girl, what you doing? Eating a snack, Noah answered. It looks good. Can I have some? He said as he sat in an empty chair. Yes, here, Nate said quickly. Has some of mine, too, Angelina said. Suddenly, all of the children were handing Eric one of their peanut butter crackers and a few of their grapes. Wow, now I have the most, he said with a laugh. That's okay, Abraham said. You are the biggest. Well, keep eating good, healthy food, and one day you might even be bigger than me. His comment was paid off in smiles. Shelley came up behind him and hooked her arms around him. My baby boy, she said softly. I was sick, really sick with worry. I might just hold on and never let you go. He patted her arm where it rested on his chest. That would be fine with me, Grandma. I mean, since I'm your favorite grandchild. She kissed his cheek. That you are. Hey there, young Eric, Jeffy said as she came downstairs. I thought I heard a male voice. I was hoping that somehow Cam made it home early. He looked her over. Her belly was bigger than Desi's, much bigger. When are you due again, Aunt Jeffy? She put her hand on her stomach. November 30th. Why? I was comparing you to the homeless girl that's staying with us right now. Oh, yeah, I heard all about her and her boyfriend. Interesting story. Who told you? Mom? How'd you guess? She's due at the end of January, so you're a couple months ahead of her. So you're coming in the home stretch. How are you feeling? She sighed, a little tired. But it's helped to stay fit and keep up with my workouts. This little guy has been kicking up a storm lately, though. I think he wants to come out. I felt the baby kick, Angelina said. Me too, Manny said quickly. Oops, and there he goes again, Jeffy said, pressing her hand against the side of her belly. Really? Eric said. Yes, here, give me your hand. He stood and went to her, and she took his hand and placed it on the spot. I don't feel anything, he said. You gotta be very still and quiet, Angelina said. After about 15 seconds, the baby kicked again. Ow, Jeffy complained. That was a hard one. Wow, young Eric said reverently, wonder in his eyes. Wow, that is so cool. Shelley grinned. I know, right? It's almost like we don't really understand that there's an actual person in there until he makes it known to us. I can't wait to see him, Jeffy said. Hey, can you, read his mind? Young Eric asked. She shook her head. I can feel his heartbeat. I can tell that he's healthy. I sense an amazing amount of love and emotion, but I can't read his mind. Jeffy reached up to touch young Eric's face. I'm so happy to see you, Eric. I knew you were alive. I knew there was lots of dirt, and I knew you were in Mexico, but I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm sorry. He pressed his hand over hers. It's okay. She gasped and jumped back. Oh no, Eric. Putting a hand to her head, her eyes closed, and she started to sink down. Young Eric caught her, lifted her, and took her into the living room to lay her on the sofa. Shelley was right behind them. Eric ran upstairs real quick to the kids' room and asked Melody to come down. Who? Just do it and ask questions later, please. Eric ran up the steps and went to the kids' room. Melody looked like a young high school girl, and it appeared she was changing the bed linens. He knocked on the door frame so that he wouldn't startle her, but she startled anyway and turned with a gasp. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you, but my grandmother asked me to come get you. He turned and went back downstairs with Melody right behind. Shelley looked up as they entered the room. Melody, will you watch the children for a few minutes? Yes, of course, she said sweetly and went into the kitchen immediately. Worriedly, young Eric glanced at his Aunt Jeffy. She was now sitting up, but there were tears on her cheeks. He went to her and knelt in front of her. Is she okay? He asked his grandmother. Shelley nodded. She's fine. She had a vision. It must have been a bad one. What did you see? Jeffy shook her head. She saw and felt your experience. His face fell. Oh, he sighed. Jeffy, I am so sorry. I should have thought to not come near you. Don't be silly, she said as she sniffed. I should have protected myself. I wasn't thinking. Eric, what you went through, what you experienced, I'm so sorry. You need to work with Dad. Well, I just had a session with him a little while ago, and one with my dad this morning. I'm struggling a bit, but I can handle it. Jeffy nodded. Yes, I know you can. You are strong. I can feel that too. And you are filled with guilt, second-guessing yourself. Your brain is running different scenarios over and over, trying to find another way you should have done things. But Eric, you won't find the solution because you were following God's orders and you did things exactly the way He told you. He said to fight hard. He said it several times. You saw that? Yes, and more. But why would God who is love, why would He want me to kill people? Remember, Eric, those men are now on the other side. They're not done with God. What happens to them now is between them and God. And Eric, God is love, real, true love. But God is also a warrior. He's our commander-in-chief. When He commanded David to kill Goliath, do you think David should have felt guilty about what he did? No, he nodded as his mind grasped what Jeffy was saying. David was doing the will of our Father, and I was too. But there is no but, Eric. We do His will. It hurts us because we still don't grasp the eternalness of our being, but He does. So try to see it from His perspective. Death is not such a big deal in the larger picture. God decided that these men needed to be stopped. Maybe if you hadn't taken them out, they would have killed Josie, who maybe was supposed to do some great and wonderful thing. Or maybe they would have killed you, both, and Jordan wouldn't be able to go on without you. Or maybe they were going to do something else to someone else that God could just not allow. So He used you, one of his mighty warriors, to do what needed to be done. Are you going to second-guess God? No, of course not. I was second-guessing myself. Did I really do what he asked me to do? Well, lucky for you, I can see into your mind, and I'm telling you, yes, Eric, you did what he asked you to do. The 5 whose lives you ended, God must have decided they didn't have any more earthly chances. The 2 whose lives were spared, God is giving them another chance. She paused and smiled. Sweetie, you did good. You did good. I heard clearly what he told you. She smiled. Eric, I would go in and help you release some of that ache in your heart, but I promised Cam I wouldn't do it anymore until after the baby is born. Young Eric nodded. I understand. I wouldn't want you to take on any of this anyway. Well, that is my decision, not yours, and I'd do it in a second, but I need to protect my child first. I don't really know if he feels what I do because he's inside my body, so I need to make sure he's okay. Again, I understand. But still, thank you, Aunt Jeffy. You've already helped me a lot. She drew a deep breath and nodded. So, now that I happen to know everything you went through, if you ever just want to talk about it, I can listen. I do not want to talk about it. I want to forget it. Well, talking about it will help you forget it. Keeping it bottled up will make it fester. Okay, well, I've already had 2 sessions today, 3 if you count this, so that's enough for the day, right? She smiled. Right. He rose and held his hand out to her. Can I help you up? Yes, I'm going to go get a snack before dinner. Mom, I guess it's just you and me and the kids for dinner? Shelley nodded. Unless we can talk young Eric into sticking around. He smiled. I guess I could do that. I mean, Mom is out with Alec and Desi, and I have a feeling she'll be calling Dad and have him meet her somewhere to eat out. And I'm really tired, and I don't want to go anywhere. Where's Jordan? She's at school. Do you want to give her a call and invite her to dinner? He thought. No. I want to give her a rest from all of the drama and let her just relax and focus on herself for a minute. Jeffy and Shelley both frowned but didn't say anything. Jeffy went into the kitchen, leaving just Eric and his grandmother. Eric yawned. Maybe I'd better go do what I promised Granddad I would do, which is to sleep. Yes, go do that, Shelley said sweetly. Oh, and who is Melody? Oh, she's such a sweet girl, isn't she? Shelley said. I wouldn't know. She's cute. She's my new helper. Like a housekeeper? No, like with the children. She volunteered to go up and change their beds for me, and I promised your grandfather that I would allow any and all help. Good. So how old is Melody? Because she looks really young. She's 18. She just graduated from high school this past spring. She worked all summer as a server, but wanted something different. She's not sure about college, so decided to work until she gets sure. I really like her. He grinned. Of course you do. She loves the children. Well, who wouldn't? He yawned again. I'm going to go sleep. He just started up the steps when the kids came running. Eric, where are you going? He turned and sat on the steps. I'm going upstairs to take a nap. But we wanted you to tell us a story. Oh, well then, come on up. You can tuck me into bed and sit on the bed and I'll tell the story. And then, if I fall asleep, you have to tiptoe out of the room very, very quietly and don't wake me up. Deal? Yes, they all yelled. Okay, so everyone get in your quiet mode and tiptoe upstairs so I can see if you really do understand. They all tiptoed up the stairs while Shelley watched with a smile. She turned and looked at Melody standing beside her, also smiling. I'm sorry, Melody, I didn't even introduce you to young Eric. But that's okay. I figured out who he was. Why don't you stay for dinner and I'll introduce you? She nodded. I can do that. That way I can spend some extra time with the children. Wonderful. Mrs. Keno? Yes, dear. I just love this job. I'm falling in love with the children and you and Jeffy, and I'm really glad that you came into the restaurant that day and that I got to serve you and Mr. Keno and the children. I was so tired that day and I almost called in. Thank goodness I didn't. Shelley smiled. Thank God. All of those things are not just a coincidence. It's all part of his plan. And when I saw you and heard you speak to the children, I knew immediately that you were perfect for what I was looking for, which was not only someone to help with the children, but someone I could help too. Well, you have helped me. And my mom is really glad about that. And my dad is what he calls cautiously optimistic. And my 2 younger brothers are jealous. Shelley laughed. Why are they jealous? Well, because they practically worship your son and daughter. They've watched every single movie they've ever made several times, and they are glued to their social media and follow Gabe and Taylor, and they can't stop talking about JoJo and how good he is, and young Eric, as you guys call him. They're going crazy waiting for the Keno Challenge and for the Mini Mart. Oh, they like martial arts? Oh, yeah. They took for a while at one of the Keno studios, but then they got into high school and started playing sports, and they didn't have time anymore. So, do you think they would like to come and see the Mini Mart or the challenge in person? Are you kidding me? They'd go crazy for that. Well, then please invite your whole family. Really? Shelley laughed. Nope, I'm just teasing. Melody grinned. Ha ha, Miss Keno. Yes, really, Shelley amended. Besides, I was going to ask you if you would come and help me with the children so that I could actually watch the action. Oh, yes, definitely. So which one, the Mini Mart or the challenge? Well, both, actually, and invite your family to both. I'll get you the tickets. Wow, this gig just keeps getting better and better, Shelley giggled. Melody, you are so adorable. And that is the end of chapter 4.